All right. Hello, people. Hello, everyone, for a new live stream. Welcome and well met. This is how to run a multi-platinum recording studio in your DAW. I think this is like one of the best titles for a live stream that I could ever come up with. And the reason for this is that it's quite enough of a clickbait, but there's a lot of educational value in it. So it's like a good clickbait because it's actually going to emphasize some things that are often overlooked in everyday life and, in any kind of recording and music production environment that, we might find ourselves in. There's a lot of myth and legend around a lot of the huge and big and fantastic and awesome recording studios and the life behind it. But usually there's quite a lot of reality hitting you every day when you work there. And so I thought that I would title this How to Run Your Multi-Platinum Recording Studio, which is obviously not exactly what we're going to talk about, but also what we're going to talk about. For some reason, it's going to be pretty cool. So let me check that everything is fine, as usually. Yeah, it is. My chat is here, so I'll be able to see what, occasionally read what you're, writing me. I might put these actually down here. So the huge news that involves this stream as well is that we have Softube, the good folks at Softube on board. And I have a console 1 fader in front of me, which you can barely see, and I have a console 1, the normal version that you cannot see. And this is the sort of a new setup because we're building another room with just digital control surfaces, and we're probably gonna go Softube all the way because we just, we have people that love the workflow. And I got a couple in this room installed. Everything is working fine as far as I can tell. And I thought that this would also be how we sort of like sideline the multi-platinum recording studio, because they have consoles, they have analog gear. So the first pun that we throw at them is that since we're running it in the box, we're actually having control surfaces and faders and stuff that actually work with our DAWs rather than being analog discs. But there will be analog gear, there will be all sort of analog gear in the box, of course, all sort of processors that have been used for years. And the reason for this is that Softube is quite famous for capturing the vibe of a lot of famous brands, and they have official endorsements with them, so they don't just take a piece of gear and run away with it. They have the actual manufacturers working with them to determine whether or not it sounds the way it should. So all of their gear has gone through the process of having the actual person who designed the hardware being there and saying like, all right, yeah, it sounds fine, you didn't get it quite right. So they're used to being third-party companies, and they have done a lot of work for a lot of, super important companies, and their products speak volumes in terms of the quality. So because of the product line that they have, this is actually going to be a very cool representation of what a multi-platinum recording studio would have. And this is going to help us build it in the box. But as usual, as you know, I don't care. I care about the brands and the people I know, and I'm super honored to be working with them. But I think the educational value of this stream and then video for you people from the future is going to be the actual session. We're going to cover a lot of stuff that I have to be honest with you, nobody wants to talk about ever, but it is present in every session, and it is the one, or actually it's the one group of things that will always break your mixes. So we're overthinking things too much in terms of what multi-platinum people would do and how their recordings are always perfect, because we're used to watching them talking about the latest plugin or whatever, and everything is in their heavenly, life where things just sound perfect. This session doesn't sound perfect. It doesn't sound horrible either, but there's a lot of things that I'm gonna go through Softube Console 1, which is pretty cool, but that are probably gonna make you think like, oh, I've never thought about that. I've never done this. I've never done this stuff. Oh, I wonder, if I should check the session I'm working on. it's a workflow thing that I myself also kind of lose sometimes because of how we're used to digital and stuff. So we shouldn't waste any time, because multi-platinum people, they don't waste time. And we certainly want to be multi-platinum people. So rule number one, we're not gonna blabber and do and all a lot of stuff. But rule number two, you would really love to see the console one setup. I know, but I made the administrative decision to avoid having that, because we're gonna go small windowy, if it works. Hold on. Yeah, it works. Here we go. We should transition now to this fantastic land of DAW and me being small in the corner. So if I had to place another camera and let you see a look at that, if I had an analog desk and you would be sitting somewhere here and I would be explaining stuff, you wouldn't be able to just always see every single channel of the 48, 56, 64. Multi-platinum people have even 128 channels, right? You wouldn't be able to know if the knob of the high-frequency SSL console is at 1.6Q or 1.2, you know? And you will already have the privilege of looking at the on-screen display that I purposely castrated. That's what multi-platinum people do all the time. They castrate stuff. And this is for a good reason. We're going to switch two modes only. There's a lot of mini mixer, visualizers, all that stuff. I'm gonna drive you through. It's gonna be a journey towards the workflow that I would like to have, you know? So a lot, exactly. So what, you know, you already wrote, like, if you see, you don't hear. It's true, people. It's true. I don't even know if I want to let you see that, but I think I'm going to go over this. So the only two windows that I like to scroll, which are already insanely full of information, are this one, which I don't know how they're called. I think it's fader view. You know, multi-platinum people having faders as well in the dark side of the force. That would be fader view. And this would be knobs view. I think this is what they're called. But if we go shift, and this is gonna be super fun for you, because I'm gonna navigate through my own way of doing Softube stuff. Softube people are gonna just pull this stuff away from me and say, like, you can't touch. I mean, this is, children shouldn't be allowed to use this, but we're gonna go on it anyway. So if I go settings and I go knob mode, no, it's not knob mode, it's select enabled view modes. You can take a look at the 5 different view modes. It's FFT view, fader view, knobs, meters, millimeters. So in order to become multi-platinum people, the first thing I thought we would do is we just ditch one of these views, which is the most beautiful view you can have, which is this one. So when I touch stuff, you know, it's gonna show here. And if I play the session and there's also gonna be like the sort of like visualizer in here, which we can turn off through FFT. You see processing, on input, on output, disable. We're gonna go like, if I solo this track, right? Beautiful, certainly beautiful. But unfortunately for us multi-platinum people, we don't quite like to see all that stuff. The curves already, to me, are insanely dangerous. If we're using faders, I don't want that. So what I've done is I've flattened this thing, and we're gonna go to, again, select enable view modes. This is gonna be one of the funniest streams ever, I'm telling you, because I know where this is going. It's super cool. And fader track view, knobs view is all I want. Meters view, blah, 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 I don't care. We're fine. So, super important thing, if you go shift and settings, the console is going to go in Vegas mode, which you can barely see. Let me go in big cam and you can see that. So Vegas mode is just what multi-platinum people usually do in breakfast. You see these faders, you see a little bit of a glimpse of it. That's what we usually do. And if you keep going shift settings again, you can play Pong, right? And you can do that with faders, like topmost and bottommost fader are gonna do that. This is like the core experience for the client still not being in the studio. So obviously if we play like this, boom, you see, and this is fantastic. So I'm gonna play it horribly, so I don't wanna do that. But you know, you can decide whether you want parallel compression or specific pieces of EQ according to who wins the Pong, match. So that's great. That's gonna make administrative decisions so much easier. Or whether or not you want an additional keyboards player in the band. You play it off Pong and you decide. So these are the only two views that I like. Knobs, which is gonna be cool for you also to see this, and faders, or faders view, which is like, if I were to be in front of the console itself. I don't like auto. I'm gonna tell you what I like and I don't like about the way of working like this, but I wanna dive into the session itself, because this is where we learn, people. This is fantastic. This session comes from 2012 or 2011, Oh, hi Gui. Yeah, I didn't match the nickname. So, awesome. So thank you for being here. Let's dive into the session itself. So this comes from 2011 or 12, something like that, maybe 13 tops, but let's say 2012. It's a rock band. It's actually a trio. It's a bass player, drummer, and guitarist / singer. You probably heard this band. It's called Marlon, and the song is called Mykonos. I just called it Back to Mykonos because we're doing it 9 years after. This session was tracked in the studio I had before coming to Berlin, and it's in a Tuscan house. Ground floor is the live room. First floor is the control room. Very unconventional, super cool sound, different stuff. But this was a workshop. I had students there, and we were tracking in, I think, a couple days, a couple songs, and then mixing the songs. So the students, the people that were actually crazy enough to be there with me, they would sleep at, close, B&B, and, we had a lot of fun eating, a lot of this local stuff, great experience, which was also part of the workshop, obviously. But they also took decisions on how to track stuff. So it wasn't just me, it was them. They had a certain setup of mics, of how, I don't remember what kind of amps and drums the band brought in, but there's a sort of process that the students, I think there were 4 of them, went through to, guide the band. And eventually then we took the tracks and we mixed them. So the nature of these tracks is going to be what I really, really hope is going to give you a glimpse into how multi-platinum people do it. Why? Because there's a lot of things you should really check before venturing into any session, and we sometimes don't do that. So, without further ado, which is something that a lot of platinum people say, we take the faders and we bring them all down. So I have a kind of a loop here, and I'm gonna start from whatever, like the beginning of first verse, or intro. We're gonna keep this window, and you see that, when I move the faders, they're all up. So that knob at the end is the volume thing, right? One thing I've done is there's some drive here and there, like for example on the bass here. Let me see, here on bass, these 2 things here, they have drive. So let me just damp it because, we don't need that, but it's okay. So the console is pretty flat, I think, yes. There's some gains here and there, we'll retouch them. Some panning I've done, but then other than that, it's just, all volumes off. So if I press play now and we were into this multi-platinum studio, nothing would come out. It's an awesome silence because it's multi-platinum silence. So it's like, silence, but way better. It's like, feels awesome. And air conditioning would be going on because we would be in California probably, and it would be super hot, even in winter. Awesome. Let's hear, when I press play, let's just jump some faders up and let's hear how things work. And let me set the actual monitoring, because I want things to be pretty loud just so that I don't overdo it with the actual channels and stuff. So I'll press play, nothing is going on, and I'm just gonna, sometimes I'm gonna really shut up. It's incredible, but it will happen. And we're gonna go through some of the tracks, and just, you'll see, the bottom names, they're fine. There's kick in, kick sample, snare top, snare sample, floor tom, overheads stereo, room stereo. There's a mysterious room duplicate. There's a clap, tambo, egg. There's a bass amp and DI, guitar DI, guitar 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, G7 Myrinx, because I had a fantastic microphone. I think it was a Pearl made by Myrinx, beautiful. And then G8, which I think it's a solo, acoustic guitar 2, which is also called the same name, that's not good, lead vocals and 3 backing vocals. You know, it's not a lot of tracks, but you see on the drums, the students already took some decisions which I really liked. We have only 1 kick, 1 snare, and we have a sample for them that they liked to put. If I had done it, probably I would have gone kick out, not kick in, but they really wanted the kick in and we did it. Only 1 floor and the overheads room duplicate. So this is really what a session that comes to me could probably look like. So 2 amps and stuff. So I'm gonna press play. We're gonna listen to the tracks themselves. All right, so this is kick in. Claps not playing. Tambo, page 2. Egg. Okay, G6 is not playing. 7's not playing, 8's not playing. Acoustic.
You will need me. Lost the place where we belong. I'm on my way to Mykonos.
Right? So you heard how they sound. Let's jump some volumes and just hear how things are. What I'm gonna do is, first and foremost, I'm gonna take lead vocals, I'm gonna jump it up here. And I'm gonna build the sort of like, yeah, take a picture. Take a picture. Also, I will go here where, you know, you can't see my hand, but I promise that this hand is just touching Softube console 1. You'll see it on screen, so you really don't need, it's all black knobs, it's not a lot to see, and I don't look at it when I'm touching it. I'm this detached, you know, from the process. I actually look at the screen, or just, you know, I should say I listen to stuff, and then I eventually like look at the screen and, you know, this stuff. But I'm gonna try and keep the mouse at like the least amount of, you know, usage possible. Don't know if that's gonna work. So I'll take the lead, which is not playing at first, and I'm gonna calibrate my life around the lead, because I'm thinking that should be the thing that plays the most. One thing I have that you might hate, I just reminded myself that, is that I have select track on touch on. So whenever I touch a fader, Softube console 1, always saying the same full name, is selecting this track. I think it's kind of cooler because I can select LDV and then pan it. I don't need to press this button all the time, which I have issues sometimes finding. I like the touch because, I mean, they're touch sensitive faders, you know, they're used to platinum people touching them all the time. So that's great. So lead. Takes a while for it to kick in.
We made out, but now you leave.
So one thing I would do, I would trim stuff. Hello, Eric. Hi. So I would trim stuff because it's not playing that much. So let's find a spot where the lead actually sings. This yellow dude here, because we're, you know, needs kind of better. Here, boom.
We made out, but now you leave me. But I'll be there when you will please.
I really like that the console kind of saturates when it gets to the yellow thing. I would keep the vocal there, and I'm gonna do everything else without saying anything.
We made out, but now you leave me. But I'll be there when you will please me. We found a way to get along. I'm on my way to
Solo.
Love is nothing, we're gonna die. Oh, fast to find the northern night. Love is nothing, we're gonna die. Oh, fast to find the northern night.
All right. So, balanced, and we got an idea of how the track sounds. Now, if I were to rediscover this from, sort of, what is it, 9 years after, so, in now, I would want to see some things clear. So I would probably start from the drums. And every time I take a group now, and I'm going to answer the questions, every time I'm going to take a group or like an instrument, like drums, bass, guitars, vocals, we're going to find out so many things about what sessions could hide from you if you just don't go, that if you start mixing without knowing that stuff, it's probably going to, gather itself into a bunch of, heavy ballast that's gonna just drag your energy away. So that's the purpose of these masterclass. It's gonna be, it sounds fine when I balance it. You could print it, put some, indie bass compression on it, go. But we're gonna take it to multi-platinum because that's, what multi-platinum people do. So you said so the saturation drive character from console 1 is also adjustable from the fader. It is, yes. So if I take console 1, which is now in volume fader mode, this is great. If Softube's gonna watch this, their product specialists are gonna throw themselves out of the window because they're so good at explaining it. And then here comes Alberto, who's just gonna explain it his way. Now the fader mode is volume. So faders control volume. If I go to drive, all the faders have just instantly, completely jumped at minus infinite. And if I move the faders now, you see that I'm not controlling volume, I'm controlling drive. And I'm telling you this, you could really just drive the console and find the right spot for it. The thing is, I still don't know if I want to use SSL 4000E because multi-platinum people use it, but we might have a Neve. Or we might go API because I have this thing for the API that I want to try. So if I then go to character mode, I can, move the character from there. If they're all at 0 or whatever, beautiful thing about working not with a mouse, who cares if they're not exactly at 0? You shouldn't care. But the visual representation of those things not being a 0 will haunt you forever. But that's what multi-platinum people do. They don't zero everything mathematically. It doesn't matter, right? So all of the drive is off. The character can go from a positive value to a negative value. So when it's positive, it becomes crispier in the eyes. And generally, when it goes negative, it becomes darker in a way. Darker or a little bit more kind of glued and compressed, they say. But there are two different ways of going. Now, the drive and character mode vary from console to console. So I could have an SSL 4000E console with an API saturation model in some channels, in all channels, in everything but the lead vocals. I could take tape as a drive model and put it only on the backing vocals. You can independently assign, let me just read because I don't remember, strip means you can load the entire channel from one console, but you can have a shape like a gate from one console, the EQ from another console, the compressor from another console, the drive from another console. So there's 4, how many did I say? 4? Yes, 4 different behaviors plus filter and stuff that you can really tune to your liking. You could have even something that is not a console. So you could have a compressor that is the FET compressor from Softube. A lot of their plugins have a counterpart in Softube Console 1. So, you could have a focusing equalizer as a drive model on one channel, or all of them, or on the drums, you might have an API drive with the 4000 E console, and on the bass, you might have an American channel, which is the API, with the drive that is taken from the Summit Audio. So you can really do everything that you want. You can even put in Wise stuff, or you can put Empirical Lab stuff. So, and the plugins that they will do after, including Chandler and those things, you can use. So if I want germanium compressors on the compressor stage of one channel or all of them, I can dial it in. It's really cool, because I mean, the plugins are exactly good. And there are many plugins already out there, and you have too many choices sometimes. Luckily, there's quick buttons for saying, please do it for every channel by, all that stuff. So it is kind of cool that we can do that. Now, so drums. Let's do again the move of moving everything down here. This was character. See, this is me being clumsy. So we go back to volume. Right on. I don't even care if the character is moved out. All right. So let me just take a look at this. We lower our stuff here. We go back to first, and we now take a look at the drums. In the interest of spotting stuff that we maybe think it's fine or not. So the first thing I have is kick in, kick sample, snare top, snare sample, floor tom, overheads, room dupe, and clap. Tambo and X. So my attention would go instantly to that room duplicate. And I would go like, why did my students put a room dupe here, right? So I would press play, listen to it, bring up the room dupe, and flip phase on the room dupe. And we're gonna find out whether or not we really have a different mic'd room, because I don't remember, or we have a duplicate of the track, right? Right? They're sort of close. Now I'm gonna flip phase to one of them, and you can see under 4000E, you see there's a PH inv. That's phase inversion. It's not too easy to spot, but there's also one on the bottom left, phase invert. And let's try this. Of course. Well, I was doing overheads room. I need to do room. Oops. All right, so they're the same track. They're the same exact track. So that's good to know, because we're gonna mute it and we're never gonna use it. I could even erase it, but I don't wanna do that. We have clap, tambo, all right, egg. It would be cool to erase it, because then my drums would be 10 faders. That's not bad. Let's do that. We're still, we can still, boom, do that. Let's go back here. And now my first page ends with egg and starts with KD in. So my 10 faders are now really my drums. And then I go to bass and what? Bass and bass amp and DI and all of the guitars up to the solo. That's awesome. That's 10. That's fantastic. So bass and guitar, page 2, and then just acoustic guitars, lead vocals, and backing, page 3. This is fantastic. It's easier because I have groups of 10, right? And that's my type of multi-platinum life. So now drums. Let's take a look at the drum. We took away the room. I want to hear the overheads and just make a judgment of whether or not we're gonna use the let me flip back the phase here. I don't want that here. The overheads as a kit. So we want to have maybe an overhead that tells the whole story about the drums, or we want to just make it cymbals only. I want to try and make it just a whole kit because it's kind of cooler. So, but you never know. There's also no mix bus compression. There's no send returns yet. We'll work on that. So first, let me evaluate just the overheads. And they're cool. Room. They don't sound different, right? They're different, but not that much. Reason being, the room was pretty small, was around 18, 20 square meters at most. So the room mics were placed in a way that they didn't make quite a difference. I think probably we could have tried and faced the room backwards and then flip phase, but it's kind of okay. Let me hear the kick. I put it in the yellow, and then let me hear the sample. All right, that's the sample that the students selected. Kind of cool. And then snare. I really like the snare. Hold on. Yeah. I'm really cranking input gain on this, and it's actually sounding snappier in a way. So now snare sample. Okay, that's the sample they picked, Tom. Love this floor, Tom. I think it can become cool. Overheads we already heard. Clap. There's no tambo. Egg. All right, so that's us familiarizing with the drums. Now, kick and kick sample, or actually kick and overheads. I'm gonna make the overheads sound better. I'm probably gonna try and load the whole American channel. I don't know, but if it doesn't work, we're gonna stay with 4000. Now, let's try this. I'm gonna go load strip, but I have to go all of them, and now he's telling me like, whatever you do, dude, this is gonna affect everything, right? So careful. I'm gonna go load strip, which is not what you're thinking. It's actually loading the American Class A. Okay, did it work? Yes. So now we called somebody. They took the SSL 4000 away from the room, disassembled it, found all sorts of garbage and illegal substances within the SSL 4000, and they brought back a fantastic, flashy new American Class A API console. So the gain, all of the structure, the volumes, they're all the same, exactly as they were before. I don't need to redo anything. It's just as simple as taking a console away and bringing it back in. Imagine the mess this would be. So how does it sound now, for example, the drum? Kind of sounds different already. Kind of liking this. And then, you know, if we had this console, who cares? So let's try and make the overheads better, like a full kit. So I'm switching to EQ just so you can see that. Now when I engage the EQ and stuff, or when I touch it, which I really like, if I go here with I-mid gain, you can instantly see what I'm doing, mid frequencies. Now this is a SSL, sorry, this is an API, it's no longer an SSL. So we don't have the choices we had before. Who knows, maybe it sounds worse, maybe it sounds better. I'm gonna try and make these overheads a whole kit, like sounding as if it was a whole drum kit, as much as possible. Now, I like it. I want to try. I'm not getting out too many lows. I'm gonna, usually that's how I do it. 12 at 50, then we're gonna low cut this. Now, Softube, they're really great people and I love them, but they're gonna buy beer because they use low cut, high cut, which I've spent years trying to understand high pass and low pass, and they've just made my life useless. But, you know, low cut is cutting lows, high cut is cutting highs, which is simpler to remember. But, you know, it's just throwing everything away. So this is still just the overheads. I kind of like 28. And yes, it does change the sound because we're like shelving stuff. And I know you would like to see how this looks, but we don't have the luxury. I mean, it's a console, right? So who cares? We can't do it. Now, everybody says do not compress overheads. So the first thing you do after you're done EQing is you're gonna compress the overheads. Just because, you know, that's what it takes for multi-platinum, people. We're gonna just have a setting, something like this, and just try and see. I like it. All right, so now let's go fine tune this. Let's pan this dude here at 0 because we don't want this to change. And this is our overheads. So it has smooth and punch, that's right. So Dots solenoid just reminded us that there are two compressors, smooth and punch. So now this forces me to actually try and load the comp. So if I go shift comp, I can go, wow, I got it. Right, American Class A punchy. And if I go OK, he's gonna keep the settings because he has Softube console 1 and just go punchy. So let's hear it and just try and make a comparison. Punchy is obviously not compressing as much. You know what? I know I read this is this is me being cool on this. I really like the smooth. Like I'm not gonna do, but there's two settings. There's a smooth and there's a punch. I don't know if they have equivalent in hardware. I would imagine they would, but you know the hardware is not always one-to-one with what these things are, although they're kind of close. You saw how the settings for the EQ are beautiful API mindset. Let's just talk about this. API is a company that made EQ bands completely different than what Neve did, or SSL. SSL, you can really pick everything, right? I mean, if you want 2.3, you have it. Neve has what Rupert Neve heard to be frequencies where a lot of the accents in music and percussion and harmonic content would actually be with the shapes and stuff that would be as musical as his ears would tell him. API followed a different approach, which is fantastic. If you need 400 Hertz, they put 300 and 600 or even 700. If you need 1.5, they put 1 and maybe even 3. So they never, they never put you, except for maybe the 10K and the 50 Hertz. Apparently, you're always fighting against settings of frequencies not being what you want. But, sarcasm apart, there's a reason for that as well, but they are very, very different than the others. But I like how this sounds, and I think it is quite a complete set of frequencies for being an overhead. Why did I do these first? I did these first because now I want to have the kick brought up front here, so I'm going to switch back, and we're going to flip phase on the kick to know whether or not our kick is adding to the mix of this drum kit as seen from the overheads. So kick in, I'm gonna bring it in, I'm gonna flip phase here, you're gonna see phase invert, or here I can do it, in both areas, and we're gonna hear whether or not we like it more with inverted phase or not. I hear more lows, or I actually like the kick better in inverted phase in this case. But I'm also gonna bring the drive up. So the kick completely disappears if you don't flip the phase. And so you're gonna fight a lot with these sort of settings, and it's never gonna work because they're in flip phase. So the kick works better that way. Now, how about the actual, let me put the drive already to 5, because I know 5 should be the balanced setting for the console-like thing, so it sounds kind of nicer, and it's mixing itself better. Now, what about the kick sample? Is it in phase or not? Doesn't change that much, but I vote for phase invert as well. Now, same thing, we're gonna do the snare. I'm gonna keep the kick there. Holy ravioli. You gotta flip phase here. So we could have flipped the overheads and life would be awesome, but you know, it's exactly the same. On a real console, it should be the same, but it won't. Anyway, snare also needs some kind of vibe. It's nice, huh? What it does. It's not as strong as on the 4000. The drive on the American channel is more like elegant. I think it's appropriate for this kind of tune. And yes, that's fantastic. Now, sample. We flip phase on the sample as well. Do we bring drive and character? Maybe. So yeah, everything is on the red. That's how I would do it. If anyone with an analog console would be crazy enough to let me stay in the room and touch those knobs, I would stay up there because things kind of sound, yeah. You said like, I'm impressed with the color and attitude, the balancing, phase check, drive is doing, and yeah, I mean, this is just balancing. And apart from the overheads and room, we're still mono. Now, because I'm clumsy, this should actually be centered, right? Straight away, mono, right? Centered, center, center. Now we're gonna go floor tom. I think we can input gain these maybe more. Minus 13.4, that's really, really low. Let's fix this. The toms are not wrong in phase, but they become a bit more scooped with the flip. So we're gonna flip those as well. Now room. The floors I really don't need here. I'm gonna go LCR, boom. You're gonna hate me for it, but we're gonna solve it later. It is really 80% being done from the start. I mean, what I'm gonna do later is I'm gonna just bypass everything, which is gonna be a dangerous key shortcut, but I think there is this way of doing it if I go all and bypass, and we'll just hear the drums without what I've done, right? Now room is super dangerous. Is it flip phase or not? In this case, I think it's not flip phase. So let's drive. Actually gonna, did I flip phase in the end or not? Yes, okay, I think it sounds fine this way, so I ended up flipping, which is great. Now, clap. Clap's not playing, I think. Tambo. So there's no hi-hat because my students learn to avoid miking hi-hats at all costs if the drummer doesn't want. Actually, probably they didn't have a mic, or they had a mic but they played it for something else because they had clap, tambo, and egg. Clap, I think it's overdubs, but let's keep it this way. So clap, we're gonna probably put a little bit here. The tambo I'm gonna use as a sort of a hi-hat, and the egg I'm gonna go. Now, what if we drive the egg, which I can, by the way, also drive in character, use, like tweak them through the console one here, off screen. So I've only gain staged it by raising the highs, raising the input, lowering the output. I kind of like it where it is. It's even more, so if I switch volume here, the fader on console one, fader, goes down. So, you know, it's all in sync. If I move this knob, which equals to output volume, the fader actually moves. So I constantly see what's going on. For example, this track is at minus infinite, it's the clap. So I'm gonna keep it at 0, whatever. Haven't touched the mouse yet. Haven't touched the mouse yet. Hands, you know, hands in the air. Now, this would be the drums. If I do all, and this is dangerous, all and bypass, which is a shift phase invert, is a global bypass. I think I'm gonna bypass all of console one. It works. So I'm gonna press play and we're gonna do it with and without comparison. Not exactly fair. Not exactly fair, because yours truly is pushing everything around plus 12. But, you know, it's where it is. This would be kind of fun, and it would work. What I would do is I would do a layer. And now layers are super dangerous because in my iteration of software, it used to crash for no reason. I don't know why. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna assign one fader here to the whole drums, so I can, you know, balance everything on the fly. Let's try this, hopefully it will work. Assign track to layer. Oh, it's already done. Awesome. So if I press layer mode, this fader here is the whole drums. It works exactly as a VCA. So if you know VCAs, it's a VCA. That fader becomes the control for all of the group, all of everything that it's grouped to, in this case drums. I have another one for bass. So let's switch to bass. Bass, same drill. Now we go here and we say, okay, does the bass DI sound fine compared to the amp? Are they in phase or no? If we flip phase on the bass amp, they sound a lot more in phase to me. There's a lot more lows. So what we're gonna do is just make sure the pan is 0, because I want this to be dead center. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at the kicks with the bass and make sure that the bass actually sounds fine with the current phase, because kick and bass, you know. I hope you're able to hear it. The kick punches a lot more with the bass amp non-flipped. For this reason, I'm gonna flip the bass DI, so the bass DI and amp are gonna stay the same in a good relationship, healthy low frequency relationship. And then, you know, it's gonna work that way. So good question, does layering or creating a layer create a stereo 1 bus? I'm gonna show you that it does not. It doesn't create a stereo bus. If you wanna not group stuff and wanna do one channel there, so console 1 knows, and it's gonna use EQ, whatever you do on its group, it's gonna affect the whole layer. But it's something within, something within Studio 1. Something within console 1. They're all called 1. So somebody get them to 2 so that it's easier. So no, it doesn't create a mixer track for this. Nothing has changed. It's a layer that console 1 knows. If you put something on a bus and put it there, which I might do, like this, I'm gonna go add bus for selected tracks, and then we'll call these DR, or I usually call like these all drums, and put it in a different kind of green, which is actually a darker one, or just different. We could put a console 1 here, and it would be a different channel of our console, and we could use drive again. It's just like everything's working there. We could even put that in the layer. So, you know, it's affecting the layer as well. But, you know, you might not want to do it for comparison. We could put a layer and create a layer for just buses, for example. That could be another idea, which in a song like this, I wouldn't do, honestly. But you see the solos are reacting to what I'm doing here. So everything is now all drums. Let's do the basses, because honestly, this works. So I mean, that's, you know, that's how I work. G here, lead vocals. We're gonna need it anyway. Add bass. So we have all drums. All of these are gonna go here. They're gonna go this specific super cool green. And I think this is all bass, all GT, all what is it? AG, acoustic guitar, and all lead V and all BGVs, right? This is sounding really cool here. Wait until we do one of our moves, which is, I'm thinking I might want to do it now because we have bass and guitars. So this is pretty cool, but there's no reverb. There's not a very big room. So one of the things that we multi-platinum people do is we create some sort of ambience that's gonna sound better for everybody. So here comes the amazing TSAR1 reverb, which the nice people of Softube make. I have a preset here that I really like called ARS Rock Drum Reverb. Now, this is a reverb as if we had a hardware reverb in the studio. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take actually all of the tracks, maybe just the drums, and go, actually I'm gonna take all of the tracks. I'm gonna show you why. All of them. Or maybe not. Yeah, we commit to it. So now I have these placed on all the tracks. So when I go back here, I can see the sends all set up. So I go to send 1 and lower all of this, right? Send 2, they're lowered. So I go here, page, I'm putting everything to minus infinite, right? So all of my sends are now off, right? So you said, so if you use a layer, you're bound to always load console 1 software. If I would use a DAW bus is more upgrade or future-proof friendly. Probably yes, but the cool thing is that if you think about the fact that a layer is a VCA, not a bus channel, it's a VCA, it makes all the difference in the world, because VCAs are meant to be sort of an electronic mechanical control on a console for a bunch of motorized faders when you have them, like flying faders or that stuff. If you have a flying fader set up on a Neve and you use VCAs, you're not really doing a bus. It's a VCA. So it's a way to mechanically control something that would require you to pull down 10 faders at the time, breaking the balance of them. So if you do a VCA down, the whole balance of your kit goes down. So now you're pushing more or less into the bus compressor. So it's two really different things. And I think you can use layers that will be in the ecosystem of console 1. It's not really meant to be a compressor. It's not really meant to be a bus. You cannot put a compressor on a layer. If you put it on a layer, it's gonna be, the compressor is going to go to all of the tracks in the group. So it's just a sort of way, it's a way to spill controls to the tracks. It's not like having a bus compressor. To do that, you need a bus track, an auxiliary track used to bus instruments. So you know, it's still within the ecosystem of console one, and if you don't have console one at the end, you know, it's gonna be okay. But it's a lot faster because once I have guitar, drums, bass, guitars, acoustic, lead, backings, I can go bloop, 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 you know, and effects as well. I could do that. It's just gonna be fast for rebalancing. You know, if I like the drums but just wanna offset them to the bass, for example. So it's a VCA. It's not a bus. And Pro Tools has a great way of doing VCAs, for example. You cannot put insert on a VCA, but anything you do on a VCA reflects on the tracks that it's assigned to. But then you have auxes, right? So it's a Pro Tools way sort of doing it. I think it's the most authentic kind of way of doing it. So still nothing here, but we said reverb now, right? So I'm gonna take the bass and just drop it here. So it sounds cool, right? Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna extend the sound of our drums through this reverb, it just sounds so nice. I'm gonna take overheads, number 6, solo this, and we're gonna go send and just effect it. Did I do it right? No, here. You see what kind of reverb I devised with my, you know, super, what is it, like mastermind. This reverb here, feels so weird to use the mouse after so much time, is meant to be a sort of an extender kind of thing. So if I go overheads, which was this dude here, and I bring it in, hear how it kind of sounds like there's more room to the overheads rather than just being reverb. So now with this amazing control, I can just go send one and decide which kind of effects have to have, which kind of tracks have to have reverb. I'm gonna take the solo off and you're gonna hear the drums and then the reverb leaking into the tracks that you see on screen. Even with just the overheads, going into that reverb, the kit is multi-platinumized instantly, I think. Like it sounds leaps and bounds, like wow. Like what we had before was like, I thought it was nice, but now, you know, it's fantastic. I'm gonna try and not use it on the direct sounds, but maybe the room itself needs it. Let's try it. The percussions are fine that way, but this is really, really good. So now if I mute this dude here, the reverb, the direct sound hasn't changed much, right? That's the beauty of it. In context of these drums, I wouldn't do much about it in terms of problems and that stuff. What I would do, however, is I would set up a couple FET compressors for my compression, parallel compression, which I would set already to 4:1. Do I have a preset of mine? No. Bad. 4:1, fast attack, actually slowest attack, fastest release probably, and I'm gonna try and put these on all of the drums right off. So SD 170, all right, here, put it all down. Then I'm gonna put it up for the snare sample. I can do it like here, or snare top. I'm gonna use snare top. And I wanna have kind of, you know, a lot going on. All right, this is kind of cool. It's enhancing the sound of the percussions. So this is gonna be a utility I don't wanna do now, but it's cool to know that kick and snare are going, I actually overdid it. This is meant to be just kick and snare. So the two snares, these are going to go to kick 1176. Awesome. We're gonna drop it down and we're gonna tune these to the kick itself. And I'm using the mouse now just because it's faster. Obviously, I can't control Softube console 1, with this one with console 1. So let's try this dude here. We're sending our kick. That's all I need. I don't need more than that. Fastest attack 4-1. I'm fine that way. I might even have maybe, what did I do on the snare? Fastest release. Sometimes I don't quite like that, but the slow attack definitely on the kick, and kind of a medium, which is already super fast. It's an 1176 kind of thing. So now if I hear my entire kit and it falls short in the mix, I can always go here, solo the entire kit, for example, and decide whether I want to bring in the bass 2 on those kick and drums. Let's hear the difference. Subtle, right? Not as much as you thought, but it's a lifesaver in case kick and drum falls short. And we could even develop that into maybe equalizing and that stuff. So now it's guitar time. Oh no, hold on. I want to do a second bass for the bass. And we're gonna do add effects channel. We're gonna 0 it, minus infinite. We're gonna send it to mix. We're gonna call this bass comp. And the reason for it is we're gonna use, should be this color, right? Well, it's different, who cares? We're gonna use maybe another FET compressor because we would have tons of these. But actually no. We're gonna use the TLA, the Summit Audio here. TLA, let me see, this dude here. Because it's a fantastic compressor and it rocks. For bass, it's fantastic. Or we could use the Tube Tech. But let's try this dude here first. 0, 0. I like it. It doesn't need to be as strong, but let me try and see if we hear bass and drums and we just bring up send 2, which as you understood, I have 3 sends, so 1 is always gonna be reverb, regardless of where it goes. 2 is always gonna be compression, 3 is gonna be special effect. So I like a little bit more of compression on the samples and less on the direct drums. Now I'm gonna bring it in for the bass. Boom, sounds fine. Let me show you what I've done. The reason why I like TLA on this one, but it's true, the Tube Tech would sound better, we could try that. But the reason why I really like the, I actually didn't have the kick on. Okay, sounds fine. The tube tech's kind of nice, but what I like about the Summit audio is that it is lower, and so it makes the bass be present but stay less upfront. It sounds very upfront now. I'm even thinking that the release fast, because of how much I'm used to hearing bass in isolation, release fast is going to be a bit too much upfront. It's gonna fight against the vocals. So I'm prepared to move release to medium. And it's already too saturated in normal. I always kind of like to go clean, but it's sort of a different way of doing LA2A kind of stuff. But yeah, the tube tech, I mean, it would be awesome as well. We could use it on, you know, kick as well. Maybe snare I wouldn't, but you know, it'll be fine anyway, for sure. So we have that. Let me just take the guitars. Let's hear the guitars and let's go through the guitars now. Guitars don't quite need to be, you know, phase against kick and stuff. Maybe yes, maybe no, I don't know. But they will have lows. What I'm interested in is I see a GDI 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So those are super important. I cannot change the volumes now because I like the balance. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna solo these people here. So now all of the guitars are soloed. So I wanna hear 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We know that the 7 and 8 are special ones. I don't care. Let's try this. So obviously they need some pumping up. If it's not in the yellow, don't even call me. You know, we don't need it. And I'm not doing it. That's cool. So drive, maybe. Remember that 5.0 is what Softube thinks to, I mean, says, they're gotta be right, it's them, says to be the actual normal way the console in question would saturate. So 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, what I would do is, I have no idea how this sounds like, but I wanna have a balanced left to right wall of guitars because that's what the stereo image is gonna be, those guitars. So let me just hear one guitar at a time through the use of mute in the solo, which is as good as on the analog console. You can mute soloed stuff and vice versa. So guitar 1, sorry, guitar 2 is actually the first actual amp. So 2, 3, this was 3, I'm gonna go 4, 5, 6. Ah, they don't play here. Time to use the mouse. Where are they? Oh, okay, so 6 is already a special guitar. So we should write that. SP solo. So we have what? 5 guitars? So 4 guitars and 1 DI. Let's track these 4 core elements. Decide which has to go left and right. That's super important. These 2 and 3 sound kind of cool. How about using 1 and see where it goes? All right. What's going on here is I want to use 2 and 3 as left-right, but I want to make sure that 1, regardless of where I put it, sounds fine. So the way to do this is you hear there's a phase problem. The reason is the DI arrives to the computer or console, whatever, faster than the amp, because the amp has cables, maybe pedals, then a microphone, so there's air that needs to be pushed to the microphone, while the DI just is a straight wire sort of, you know, and goes there. So we need to balance these two. So first off, I want to find a sound that is kind of interesting for these. And I think I have an idea of what I want to use. Like Marshall 203, that would be cool. Let me see what I have here in Softube land. Brrr, let's go here. Too many plugins as usual. But, hold on, Marshall. Oh, do I only have these? I thought I had... Oh, maybe I don't have it. No, come on. If I write J, isn't it Jubilee or whatever? Man, I have so many plugins here. All right. Marshall. What do I have with Marshall? Flat. These two. Okay. Then this is it. That's what we're going to use. Marshall. The reason why I was looking for... All right, yes, there is. So the 2203 has a starter preset that I made, which I really, really liked. You see how it's tuned, presence, bass, middle, treble. It transforms the DI from this to this, which sounds more real than the other track, which I guarantee you were done through that. So we're gonna place these before console 1, and we are going, because that would be what we had, and it's just a 57, I think. 57, yes. C, microphone C, only one. I don't use two. There's a lot of controls. I really like these plugs. How heavy are they? Usually that's the question. Man, they're not even 0%. That's cheap. All right, that's the cheapest Marshall 2203 model I've ever seen, but it sounds great. So this is fine. What do we want to do here is let's listen to G1 and G2. One left, one right. Okay, now let's listen to 2 and 3, not 1 and 2. You hear the problem, right? This is still kind of out of phase, sort of. So what we're going to do is we're going to call a delay. Latency delay is fantastic. And we're going to delay the DI, which is now a Marshall beautiful 2203, JCM 800, I think. It's always the 800, but the revision, it's a famous 2203, 03, 4 is also great, 10 is more slash Guns N' Roses kind of stuff. All great, but kind of different in sound. So we're gonna try and find a milliseconds sort of way. We could do it by looking at the waveforms, but we're multi-platinum people, got no time, right? So let's try and dial in some milliseconds, like 10 times 1 times 0.1 times 0.01, and hear when they sound kind of cool. Because right now my head is like, probably your head is also like, oh God, this is so weird. If I flip phase on one, like on this one, it's actually much better. It's actually much better, but I want to try these anyway. I'm gonna stay with 1410, or 14 milliseconds kind of sound cool. The idea is to not have our heads go like, oh God, this is so like flipped phase. I'm still thinking I'm gonna use probably 1 as a center guitar and 2 and 3 opened up, maybe. Let's try this. So 2, Yes, it kind of works. I have no idea what I've done. I've moved, I think, one here. Okay. All right, let's do it like that. Minus 100 for G2. G1 is gonna stay center. G3 is gonna go there, so we have like these three. Now I kind of don't, maybe we can make... Kind of grungy, but I kind of like it. It needs some filters as well. So right, I like it. So we have our wall of guitars, we fixed it. Now let's hear it in conjunction with the what we had before. Right? There's not one EQ. What do you write? And quickly the habit of the mouse appears. Yes, of course, but not as good as before. So I'm like in the middle and nothing works anymore. I'm not, you know, when I'm left-handed and when you try and fix you and become right-handed, which actually luckily didn't happen with me, you're like, you can't type, you know, with either hands. It's horrible. So now we go here just to check these guitars. Hear the click. They didn't, the students, obviously, not my fault, by all means. I wouldn't be such a multi-platinum person, right? But there's a click that you can hear the click, and I think it's either guitar player, maybe drummer, probably drummer. So there's a couple guitars we didn't check here. Should be up, of course, because we are soloing whatever, right? So let's get into the habit of taking away all the solos, which I have no idea how to do manually. All right, so these guitars. Right, these guitars. Now this, I'm gonna mix right off. I don't even wanna know. Like this, we're gonna just EQ, compress them. We're just gonna make these two guitars work in whatever we have, and who cares? Do I have mutes going on? Yes, of course I have mutes going on. Take these out. Take these, you Softube. Everything the wrong way. So now let's do G8 and G6 and G8. Right, so that one is already brighter. I really like it. Now the solo's lacking, obviously, right? So we go solo. It's kind of nice to select the track so we know everything I'm gonna mess up is gonna be this dude. And we'll go drive and character on. Boom. I really like that when the parameters are dialed in the sort of like threshold of low and, you know, within the realm of being in the same console, I bring the drive up on par with the average that all of these channels have, which is around 5, 6. And the track fits instantly. And this would be how the console would saturate, would bring everything together. You're seeing that with your own eyes. I mean, I'm clumsy. I'm still not 100%. 40 years with a mouse and keyboard. Get out of here. It's just not gonna work. Yet, It's super easy, and by the time I dial in drive from 0 to 6, the input and output volumes and everything else just fits. They all fit together, and it's like now I only need maybe to do, I don't know, a couple, maybe one volume right or whatever. It just fits already within the realm of my mix. But we're gonna do EQing, obviously. Right, here we are. So now I'm gonna kinda probably switch to punchy, because this one I wanna try with the punchy one. So careful here. Don't ruin it. All right, let's redo it. I'm probably gonna go for a 4-to-1, like a parallel compression kind of thing. Now, it's nice, right? But when it's soloed, it's a little bit too crispy. So high cut and try and find something that takes away the heat, right? Hear the character, how, you know, cool it is to just shift it and find the right spot. Right, there's still nothing, people. It's just like nothing. Let me try and maybe parallel a bit less, and it's still spitty, so just a little bit less attack. Still not quite good on the attack. It needs to be perfect. It's so good. I remember when the guy was playing it, he had so much fun. We could automate that, right? So it is organic, right? It is. I mean, you know, I've spent 0 seconds on it. It was tracked right, even if the studio was, and that's the pun, it wasn't a multi-platinum studio. It was a countryside house with a 20 square meter living room that was built to be a live room, and the control room I had at the first floor. So when the drummer and band were playing, we would hear the floor trembling from, you know, there was vibrations, the acoustics in the rooms, both rooms were far from perfect. I had to actually go one entire flight of stairs every time we had to tweak something. But because I knew the room and made it work and put some room mics here and there, it's developing. There's still really nothing. But now the issue is, which I wanted to be in there, we haven't brought up the vocals, and there's still no mix bus compression. So we gotta be, clients coming in less than 30 minutes. We have to get these stuff going. I wouldn't care about the acoustic guitars. I'll let them fit. What I would like to do is set up the lead vocals, first, for sure. We're not gonna use drum reverb on these people because what we're gonna do is, number one, we're gonna create a second reverb, and we're gonna call this vocal verb, which is super scary and fantastic. What are we gonna use? Well, we're going to use the same SAR because we know how it works. And we're gonna listen to these vocals here, just the lead, and we're gonna tune in, not his mouse habit coming back in. And we're gonna use these to dial in the lead vocal reverb, and it's gonna get shared by the backings as well. I'm gonna go through presets. This is just a drum that I had. I think Modern Vocal Collab was actually, Chamber was actually super cool, and then I'm gonna tweak it.
We made out when now you leave me, but I'll be there when you will please me. We found a way together long. I'm on my way to Mykonos. We made out when now you leave me, but I'll be there when you will please me. We found a way together long. I'm on my way to Mykonos. We made out when now you leave me, but I'll be there when you will please me. We found.
All right, now it could work. Let me hear it with the drums.
We made out when now you leave me, but I'll be there when.
It's kind of long. Maybe I'm gonna go shorter. I remember when we did this, we actually, oh, it's missing the mix routing. That's right. Thank you, because that's gonna be an issue when we. That's right, because Studio One doesn't do it. I usually send these to mix. Let me just double check that everything's going right. Yes. Okay. Nice. So if vocal verb goes directly to the monitoring, it's not going through our mix bus eventually when we have it. That's gonna be a huge issue for us. So I kind of like this, but it's not quite the chamber that I wanted. Maybe it was the collab actually. Oh no, it was vintage 224 plate. Sorry, I'm pretty sure.
We made out when now you leave me, but I'll be there when you will please me. We found a way together long. I'm on my way to Mykonos.
We're gonna use this for now. It doesn't need to be obviously this much, but yes. The second thing we're gonna do add effects to these folks here, and we send it instantly to mix, and we call these LDV comp. So we send these all to -infinite, we take a fat comp, and we do the same thing. So usually these would be on your template, but I just want to show you how easy it is to do. 4:1, kind of fast attack, maybe here is fine. The idea is always the same, to get the, bumpy.
We made out when now you leave me, but I'll be there when you.
Awesome, that's all I need. Because again, clients coming soon, right? So then we take these away. We do another bus for number 2. This is gonna be BGV comp. And look how cheap I am. Now, ready? We're gonna take the Summit Audio TLA and we're gonna bring it back here. And we're gonna hear these 3 guys, which is the same dude, here.
We made out when now you leave me, but I'll be there when you will please me. We found a way to get along.
I don't want fast attack here. I'm thinking it will work without, especially when I brighten them up, because if the attack is slow, the consonants pass too much, and it doesn't work. So here, you said like, could you use the listen bus on the stream? I could, but I could, but I usually send one out physically to you. So yeah, I could set it up. It's just I'm not that that person. But yeah, listen bus would work for sure. But I could also go, if you just want to hear how this effect works, I can go like this and mute this, and we're gonna hear it.
We made out for now.
Do we? We should, right? Boom. We should.
We made out for now. You leave me.
So that's decompression coming in from the vocals into the summit, for sure. What else? What else? I think we're kind of fine. We have two. We have one comp only. No, we're gonna make a third one. Just because this is gonna be much easier. Add effects. We're gonna call this LGV comp 2. We're gonna make this blue as well, as usually, either one. We're gonna do mix. This could be also a bus, like all parallels, and we're gonna use the summit audio again, but for this dude here. So here, now it's super loud.
We made out for now. You leave me, but I'll be there when you will please me. We found.
People, this sounds insane on vocals. It's just so beautiful and it pairs up fantastic. And now the question that, why did you burn it? No slap? Yes. When we did these, and if you listen to the official like mix and master, we had a slap. The singer wanted one for sure. So we're gonna use a slap verb for sure. It was like their main thing was, you know, we gotta have that. So I think these people, like Softube, they make what is called tube delay. And it's great, and I'm gonna tell you what. We're gonna use this also on, we're gonna duplicate this pal here. And we're actually not gonna duplicate that. Hold on. Go away. Over. All right. Well, maybe we duplicate it. I have a preset. Yes. The snare bouncer. Now this, we move to all wet. The snare bouncer is going to be fantastic for this thing here. Snare sample, right? We're gonna do here, we're gonna do snare slap FX1, which I haven't renamed, shame on me. Snare bounce. Listen what this thing does. Let me go back here because it's gonna be easier for me to move it. All right, so snare here. Awesome. I like this is really cool. Now the vocals just through the third compressor, they already sound great. We need the slap on this dude here. So let's bring these up. Slap. Now this is gonna be number 4. So
We made out for now.
I don't think I have a tempo sync here.
We made out for now. You leave me, but I'll be there when you will please me. We found.
Boom, right? Or tape echo, yeah, as well. But this, I think we used these when we made the record. I remember some trying different ones, and either we ended up with another company which cannot be named, or with Softube, which can. But this is great. I don't think I wanna overdo this for now. So what do we have? I'm gonna do some sort of trick now here. I'm gonna take just the guitars, right? Let's go back to this amazing view that, you know, it's super easy to do. Let's just hear the lead vocals, which I have selected in solo. So let's take all the mutes out. Let's take this guy in solo.
We made out, but now you leave me. But I'll be there when you will please.
Little bit of reverb. And now the compressors I'm not gonna use for now. I'm actually gonna lower them all because those I'm gonna fine tune when I have the mix in. But what we're gonna do here is we're gonna page to guitars, all of them. We're gonna solo all of these. And I wanna try and find a balance for the vocals within the realm of the guitars. So it's low, right? Because of how I gain stage stuff, we're approaching the saturation level of everything. There's no mix bus compressor going, you know, differently. Somebody guessed the name of the other company, definitely, but you know, it makes cool slap echoes. And you know, the singer knew them, obviously. There's no drive on the lead vocal, so let's try and bump it up. And instantly, again, the vocal just enters the realm of the, you know, volume energy balance of the whole session. And this is nobody speaks about the drive knob this way, not even Softube, because they make short examples, so it's not entirely anyone's fault. You need 2 hours maybe to experience this, and that's why I'm here. Got 2 hours, plenty of 2 hours, people. But it is the one thing that Console 1 really does nicely. You bring that from 0 to 6.7, boom, and the vocal enters the stage. Before it was this guy singing in the backstage with the band playing. Now he just stepped forward and I didn't have to push volumes or that stuff. Now we are in that realm. But we're gonna EQ that a little bit, and I'm gonna do that with the guitars just a tad, and then we're gonna try and see how it works. But you know, I would do it probably with the whole band. But for the sake of tutorials, I got some feedback sometimes, like it's really hard to grasp the little details sometimes, and this would be maybe a little bit too detailed. So let's do it in solo. Maybe let's try and see how it works.
Together, Lord, I'm on my way to Mykonos. Love is nothing, we're gonna die. Hold fast to find the Lord night. Love is nothing, we're gonna die.
I just moved compressor 2 and 3 just to test. It works fantastic. What we're gonna use the compressor for is to even things out. So what we're gonna do is we're probably not even gonna use I'm gonna try the console one, and then otherwise I'm gonna use the FET, because I know that pretty well. So I'm gonna try and go maybe 100, maybe it's a little bit too much, but around the 20, fast attack. Let's try and see if we only grab the super peaks of the vocal.
We made out when now you leave me, but I'll be there when you will.
So it is always grabbing. I don't want that. I want to try and get something that is capable of, I think the FET compressor is gonna work. Yeah, why not? Boom. All right.
We made out when now you leave me.
Still going, so I have to go input gain less, obviously. But you know, I want to try that anyway. Try maybe a 20 to 1.
We made out when now you leave me, but I'll be there when you will please me. We found a way together, Lord. I'm on my way to Mykonos.
You heard the difference? I think you did. It's kind of balancing what I did with the EQ. Kind of like it. Again, it's an API EQ, so you know what I mean. But
we made may doubt, but now you.
Now, without context, there's just no way. But I'm gonna keep going with no context just because I'm this kind of guy, and we're gonna try and do the backings.
We may doubt, but now you leave me, but I'll be there.
This we could do with a group. So I go group, and I select these two, and now everything I do is on the 3 tracks that we have. So I'm gonna try that, and I'm gonna EQ these pals here when the singer's singing. So, can you control the EQ also from the fader? I can control the low pass and high pass from the console. I can control the input gain, the volume drive character, and 3 sends, but not the EQ. So that for that one, I can load a drive model with the fader. I can load a strip with the fader, but the strips are only available in quantity if you have the console one. Yes.
We may doubt, but now you leave me, but I'll be there when you will please me. We found a way together, Lord. I'm on my way to Mykonos.
So my purpose is to make something completely destroyed, but it has to work with the lead. I don't care about these dudes 3 takes by themselves.
We may doubt, but now you leave me, but I'll be there when you will please me. We found a way together.
Ooh, got it. Backing vocals are the thing that are gonna give you gigs if you get them right, because people, when they hear them, that the lead vocal is surrounded by the right amount of backings, which everybody underestimates until it gets there, they are super important and they're very hard to do if you don't have room for it, which we might not have, but we know that lead and backings, they do work together now. I wonder what happens. We're gonna probably try and rebalance stuff, but we have like 10 minutes, and now the completely different thing that I've never done is we don't have any bass compression going on whatsoever. So if I had to pick one, this would probably be either a 2500 by API, maybe an SSL bass compressor. What I'm gonna try and do is I'm gonna try and use the Chandler for educational purposes. But first and foremost, let me bring back the drums, and trust me, this is gonna be useless because when we bring in the bass compressor, we will have such an easier time to dial in this. There's only the backings, the acoustic guitar, but I'm just gonna do one run and feel if everything's fine. So. All right, you know, we're not that bad. I really like it. I just want to say something before I shut up and do more stuff. Have you noticed the lead vocals with a tad of compressor 2, which was our FET 1176, allowed me to bring it down in volume with more parallel compression, and it's like so much more enjoyable. It fits better. Same thing with the vocals. Compression 2, which was the TLA, not even needed. As soon as I bring it in, it's already too much. It feels like it's overwhelming. The backing vocals had a little bit of 2, I think, not entirely sure. No, not even, right? Maybe? Just like not like minus 37.5. Like if I look at these numbers, they look completely wrong. it doesn't sound like minus 37.5, and that's the beauty of it. I don't want to know. I don't want to look. It's already too much information if we do it that way. But it's so empowering to just touch stuff. And I am mouse aficionado, people. So gotta give it to Marcus that this was a good idea, maybe to build a room around this, because you touch stuff, it's kind of funnier. Now I'm gonna just shut up and you're gonna watch me kind of do a little bit of retouching of some of the tracks we haven't worked on, because there's like literally nothing. Let's take a look. Like I haven't done EQ on anything. There's just some effects and stuff, some drum verb we don't need on the bass and stuff. All right, so same thing, we're gonna take it a little bit before, and then I'm gonna do some fixing, and then we see each other after I'm done fixing. I'm not even gonna bring in probably the EQ page. You're gonna see it from either the small thing or not, I don't know. Again, maybe the toms are playing. Okay, enough toms.
I'm on
solo. All right, we're gonna set up a slap just for this dude, right on insert, and then we're gonna place like a TLA here, just because I wanna level it even more. So, yeah, all right, no. This guy here. Right, then we slap it. We need a sort of a default thing, which is not here. Man, this thing distorts like crazy. Really analog-ish, in a way. All right, changes the tone too much. So we're switching to some kind of cleaner delay. Why not just, I have no idea, maybe analog delay. This thing. Boom. This is already, what, Studio One. Well, I don't need more than that. A little bit of drum verb, I give it to it because it kind of sounded cool. I think I could swap these for a vocal verb, actually, because the vocals are not singing, so. Absolutely. All right. Little bit of room treatment, and then we go to the mix bus, and then it's actually, I'm gonna start back from here. The claps I haven't done. Where's the claps at? Oh, here. Awesome. So the claps and then mix bus. Love is nothing. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night. Love is nothing. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night. Almost. Love is nothing. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night. Love is nothing. We're gonna die. All gave the overheads a little bit less space for it. Now we're gonna have to bring in the mix bus. Now, why is this a cool thing? Because when you bring in this dude here, hold on, we have compression and we have EQ. And I have it kind of already set to a rock mix bus starter setting, but it was off. So this thing, trust me, if we do a tone generator of this pal here, right, and we keep this thing at minus whatever, 30, and we do a 1 kilohertz sine, and we keep these to 6, right, and 6, you're gonna see that there's compression at around minus 29, minus 30. It starts compressing really, really, really low, like a low volume. So if I bring this in, I think it was the mix bus starter, maybe preset? No? Yes? All right. Yes? Yes. Okay. Listen what happens to it if I bring this in. It's completely destroying everything just because of how it's set. So trust me, on comp 1, it starts compressing at around minus 30, which is really low. And that's why a lot of people don't kind of like it, or they don't find it, you know, useful as much. But if you mix tool it, so if you gain stage through it by going lower, you can keep these settings that I have and just go lower than that. So let me engage it. And then I'm just gonna bring these up. Obviously, we have to bring the, you know, volume up back after it, but I'm gonna do it with a clean mix tool again. So this is mix tool 2. We're gonna call this mix post, and or actually this would be trim post, and this would be trim pre, if I can type. So we have trim pre, we have trim post, and we have this that now cannot be used the same way I've set it up because the mix is pretty much already done. We want to glue stuff. So I disabled the EQ first. I'm just gonna use, you know, this dude here, and then I'm gonna tell you why and what I like about it. So now it's really low, obviously. So we have to go 24 up, right? Okay, maybe 12. So once we disable these 3, we're super, actually the pre has to stay, but once we disable the Chandler and the post, and then we enable it, right? We're there, right? Almost unity gain. Now I can work with this because I'm like close to having a little bit of compression. You're hearing it, right? It's doing its thing. I really like how this is set up already. We could start changing it. We could do mid-side. It's kind of tricky. I'm gonna try and move the release and attacks to just see if there's anything I like better. So the cool thing about this plug, which drives people insane, is that if you compensate with the output to get a gain staging that works for comparing without and with, you're never gonna get the saturation from the output stage as well into the EQ, especially if you have it on. So this is a real trouble because you're never gonna be able to compare the two of them. So my advice is don't care about that. Try and find a setting that works great, especially if you use it from the get-go, because this is a wild beast. A lot of people I know, they say, I don't use it because there's no way to compare apples with apples. I'm just gonna try and set things up with this preset I had, but I wanna switch to limit to let you hear how it sounds. Maybe you like it better. I usually either go comp 1 or limit, depending. honestly, limit doesn't really work. I'm gonna try and work my way with comp 1.
Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night.
All right, there's only one thing we need to fix, which is now the high frequencies are really poking through. So I wanna go back to maybe rebalance these, but I really, really like the sound I'm getting with this preset. I'm just gonna keep it, the attack is right. It's something that really wants to go somewhere. So the filters I'm gonna engage, we're gonna try these as well, just to give it a little bit more tone.
Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night. Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night. Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night.
I really love this EQ. It's drastic. I've done some wild moves, but it's really detangling the whole thing, especially if we use tape after.
Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night. Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night.
Yes, I think 12, I wasn't quite sure about that, and I like the compressor.
Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night. Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night.
I think this compressor really sounds great when you pass either 0 or 8. It's insane how in the middle of the 4, it doesn't, to me, sound like it sounds like it's letting something poke out too much and other things not enough. Once you get to 8, and I've seen it used in real life by engineers, like famous engineers, and the needle is going almost all the way up, and the mix sounds fantastic. I've seen it used on TV shows or whatever, like things you can see on TV, like, you know, the talent shows. In the control room, they have these two things, and the needles are going this way every time the orchestra plays. And it sounds great. If you stay close to 0 and you're shy with it, it might sound worse than it can. If you switch it to THD, you're only gonna get maybe the, you know, compression, so the saturation, that could also work, but
Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night.
so now we really have to fix those the claps, yes. The claps have way too much highs.
Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night. Love is not fair.
Now they're kind of, you know, impossible to hear. I'm gonna compress them more.
Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night. Love is not fair. We're gonna die. All fast to find the lonely night.
I wouldn't mind them being a little bit, you know, under the hood.
Love is not fair.
I have the feeling that on, actually I could de-punch them and maybe sustain them more.
Love is not fair.
Yes, why not? Acoustic guitars. That's the only thing we're missing. Let's find a spot where the guitars, they're not doing too much, but a little bit. And I'm gonna rebalance that, and then we're gonna call tape as well. I have a tape preset. I just wanna load in right off the bat, this guy here. It's called what? Alberto's Platinum Rock Tape. So we are on. You can do that, which is fantastic. I think I went a little bit more high frequency trim. It just sounds beautiful. C is kind of a little bit grungy, but for this song, I think works well. B tends to be a little bit, you know, cleaner oftentimes. I don't know. It just, you gotta try it. Oh, the see-through effect is just insane. Really, really, really great. Now, my question to you is, do you really hear a lot of compression now that we lost the capability of doing A to B? I think not, right? It sounds fine. How much compression do we have? We're past 4. And also you remember that we had to kind of automate the solo. I thought about it. I said, like, if I were to do it, I would automate it because it's kind of a bit too much and not enough when it's coming in. Let's try and hear. Maybe now it's evening out. So now I'm gonna save, and for fun, we're gonna rebalance the whole mix just because we wanna ruin stuff. So we got tape, we got limiter, we got, so no, much less than I expected here, which is good and weird. Tape, yeah, exactly, for the compression, sorry. I was just like, yeah. It's also tape after the Chandler really does it nicely. Let me take a look at the limiter as well. Are we kicking it in? No, right? By all means, no. So how do you ruin a mix that is fine? You just rebalance everything you've done. Great, right? So some engineers, when they don't quite like the balance, they go back to, you know, everything here, boom, boom. I haven't done the acoustic guitars. We don't care. We're just gonna drive them maybe here. Let's give it some drive to the two of them. Goodbye, a little bit less character because we like this. Bye. So now we really have, let me double check, no volume at all. So we're gonna press play on the whole song here, and we're just gonna do one pass. Maybe the song ends here and rebalance it, and who knows, you know. Hear how much the mix pumps. Sounds wrong, right? You gotta think that there's no bass and guitars, and the bass compressor is actually using its power to fully drive drums and vocals. So don't freak out. It's normal that this happens. After a while, you get used to it because you would wanna touch stuff. Don't worry. Springing guitars.
We made out, but now
right? One thing I would do here, which we haven't done, is bass compressor on the drums, because it's just gonna make my life a lot easier. And what could we use they've made that is fine? Maybe I would still use a TLA. It's TLA time. Anyway, I really like this for like super low, like a little bit of it, clean. All right, I haven't even mixed guitars and everything. Maybe I still would like to change something, but you get the gist. So it sounds like a concert soundtrack. I think I got the balance there. So, you know, I would save probably as if it was real, like, because balancing with faders becomes a thing of the moment as well. Sometimes people don't feel it to drop it again, everything down, and they redo it. And they start maybe from something else. Here, just because of how I set the compressor and how, you know, brutal the compressor is, if I go just a little bit overboard with the snare, everything kind of rebalances itself better. I think I kind of ended up close to how it was, but it's all in the details now. If I go a little bit more room, things kind of become a little bit more wet in the drums, and that completely drives everything completely different by all means. Now, guitars really have nothing, right? All of the guitars, there will probably be a 500 hertz that I would maybe drop a little bit. So this is G1, could be maybe a 500 -2. I heard kind of a build up here, and there would be some, let's try this, getting, you know, too much fun. This you would automate. At this point, there's just no reason for it. You would just go here, touch, and you would just do one pass. I even moved the pan at the very end, right? So that I think even automating obviously is much faster. So it does sound like quite like a sound check. That was quite a cool experiment to try the mix bus after. This is something I think it's been years that I don't do. I never do that at the very end with this brutal kind of approach, especially with something like this. But you know, again, probably this is really strong iron on it, and we're fighting to make it work. But I like the tone of these things so much. We could even try the sidechain.
The place where we belong. I'm on my way to Mykonos. Love is now fair. We're gonna die.
It's there. It's 50 for some reason. It's just there. So again, we kind of went through 2 hours and a half of this, and that was quite an experience. Did we mix it? Is it done? Is it platinum? There's pretty much no work on the basics again, which I could have done. Like if you listen to some of the tracks in solo, you're gonna hear, for example, that the gate I haven't used that much, but it could be healthy now to maybe take a couple tracks that have some low clicks, maybe the vocals have a lot of bleeding, and I mean, you can't do it in 2 hours a mix, but the principles are there. You notice how many things I've checked, how limited the range of let's take a look at this, how limited the range of outboard was. It was just 1176s and Summit audios, and that was it. There's no, Little Freak, there's no whatever, Mikey from all of the pool of stuff that Softube does. There's not a lot of, again, even EQ for a lot of these tracks has been completely clean. Let me see. For example, we go kick, the snare sample, the kick sample has nothing, top has it, snare has it, floor tom, these we remember I've done, tambo doesn't have it, egg doesn't, bass amp is clean, bass DI is clean. There's nothing really happening apart from, I think, some, exactly, parallel compression going on, and it's already, they're not even driving the bass through that. So if you rationally go over what I've done, sometimes you think like, why didn't I drive the bass through the console? Because I parallel compressed that and it sounds fine. Why didn't I do, I think we can see that easily, some tracks like the acoustic guitars or some guitars, and mostly the bass have no EQ whatsoever. So there's a lot of things you could do. And I've done these through an API, which is like, a knife like this big to, carve something into wood. And it's actually the beauty of API sometimes, is that you're overkilling it, but with kindness. I don't know. There's a respect into the way the frequencies work. It would have been very different if an SSL was employed, or maybe a Neve or whatever, but it has a compromise factor that is great. You can't really make it sound top 40, right? It wasn't tracked to be top 40, but there's a vibe, there's an energy of the people playing that is just respectful. We could do this in 100 million ways. I've tried to do it in a different mix thought, sort of like train of thought for mixing. I haven't used a bassing for kicks and snares. I haven't used a lot of bass processing. I've used a lot of parallel, yes, and just things spontaneously developing when I felt that. Very different. Mix bus at the very end. I tried to throw a curveball at myself, but the very first part in which we tackled all of the technicalities, the listening to the different tracks, is where things shine for real. Now there's, it's just a matter of the magic balance. And I really like this setup, works really well. We'll do these more in the future for sure. There's a very organic way of working with these stuff, especially because of the drive and the character stuff. So, as usual, what else can I say? It was great doing this and going back to Mykonos after, again, it's like 9 years easily. I still love the way this was tracked. And I think the students, the people that were involved, really did it right in not being scared. What I remember from the session is that people weren't holding, their thoughts or their emotions in themselves. They were like experimenting with microphones and stuff. And once things sounded with that quid of thing, we tracked it. We went for it. We didn't try 300,000 things. The band still had a lot of energy to play these songs, and that was something that was captured, and it will always, despite pitching or maybe some bass note not hitting on the kick, it will always pay off, always for sure. So the vibe is really what makes the record. So there's no multi-platinum crap. Yes, there's the facility, there's the air conditioning, but you make multi-platinum in you when you play the stuff, when you feel it right, when it's your song, when you're confident about it. This is 3 people, with a couple overdubs for solo, acoustic guitars, and clapping. They're all together, the 3 of them. I think all of the students as well went downstairs and we all clapped, and when we captured thing, with whatever was there. I think it's either the room mics for the drums or something from the lead vocals. Awesome. When things have an energy, they develop themselves. So I hope it was useful. As usual, we're gonna see each other in the next live stream. If you have questions, remember, you can always ask them. You know where to find me. And most importantly, because I keep forgetting about this, to keep this stuff alive, we need Patreon. So this comes from an idea that a lot of people suggested to me and I never kind of followed up on. But I have a Patreon page, so you have the links everywhere in here on screen. Go there, check it out. There's a lot of people already supporting me that are here on stream. I couldn't thank you people more than I'm actually doing, but I'm always trying. This is really helping all of the produced videos that go to my assistant to get the editing and production done. We're thinking about doing more. September is coming. There's a lot more things that we have to follow. So thank you for keeping the project alive. It's great. I think it shows that I'm not here for any second reason. I really like to tell you my version of the story on any kind of mixer thing I've worked on, especially if it's a lot of years ago, because it's fun to remember those sessions, and not be sure about some tracks and double check things. So as usual, you know where to find me. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye. Ciao.